Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be showing y'all my updated everyday makeup routine. So we're going to be doing this natural, like everyday look, but I'm going to walk you through why I have decided to change up some of the application techniques that I've been using lately. So let's jump right into it so I can show y'all how I did today's look. So the first change that I've made is with highlighter. So I don't really wear highlighter all the time, but when I want to wear one, I've been reaching for this Rare Beauty liquid highlighter. When I first started wearing this, I used to apply it after my foundation and concealer. Now I apply this first when I want to wear it. So I'm going to start off with this, and this one is in the shade Mesmerize. So I'm just going to put this on the high points of my cheek. This is a really subtle highlighter, so I do put a good amount of it on. And then I just blend it out right in this area. And the reason I have switched over to putting this highlighter on first is because even though I really like this highlighter, I do think it's a little difficult to blend out on top of other products. So that's what the highlighter looks like. I feel like I'm going to put on just a little bit more over here. I just feel like I have a little bit more on this side. So this is what the highlighter is looking like now, and then you'll see in a little bit how the highlighter is still going to show through my other complexion products. So the next change that I've made is that I've been putting on some concealer underneath my foundation. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Concealer, and this one is in the shade 4C. So I'm going to put on a little bit of this, and I like to concentrate this wherever I have dark marks. So for me, that's on both of my cheeks. So I'm going to put on a little bit of this on my cheek area. I'm also going to put some on the corners of my mouth, and then just a little bit under my eye, because I am going to go over my foundation with a little bit more of this. I'm going to be blending it out with the Rare Beauty foundation brush, and they have a concealer brush that looks kind of similar to this, but it's just smaller. But I love this brush for blending out my concealer. So I'm going to blend this out, and I'm just going to pat it in place instead of like buffing it, because I do want the concealer to kind of stay right where I have it. And then the same thing with the concealer that I have under the eye. This is why I really like this particular brush for concealer, especially for the under eye area. Like I said, the concealer brush that they have is kind of like the same shape, so it allows you to get right up in here. I just feel like with this brush being bigger, it just covers more surface at one time. And as you can see, you can still see a lot of stuff peeking through, but generally speaking, my skin is a lot more even toned. So now I'm going to go in with my foundation. I don't really have any change to the way that I'm applying the foundation. It's just that I'm now putting some concealer on underneath it. So I'm going to be going in with the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, and this one is in the shade Maple. So I usually do like maybe a good pump on each side of the face, and this particular foundation I like to blend this out with a brush. So I always start my foundation on my cheek, because even though I did put that concealer right there, I'm just used to starting on my cheek because that's where I have a good amount of like dark spots and all that. And I just feel like from putting the concealer on underneath, my foundation just looks a little cleaner, a little smoother, like a little more even tone to me when I do this. And I think that's simply because I've kind of like evened out my skin tone with the concealer before I went in with the foundation. So I am still going to go in with a little more concealer on top of the foundation. So I'm going back in with my Estee Lauder concealer, but now I'm more so using this just to highlight certain areas, not necessarily to conceal certain areas. But I am going to put some more of this concealer on my under eye area and on the chin and forehead, and just a little bit more on the sides of my mouth. So I'm just going to use my foundation brush to blend out on the forehead and chin. And then I like to let this second layer of concealer sit just to kind of thicken up a little bit while I do my brows. So I'm going to do my brows off camera, and then I'll come back and blend this out. Okay, I'm going to go back and blend out this second layer of concealer under my eyes. And really the only difference with this step is I used to blend out the second layer of concealer with a sponge, with this particular sponge, but I've been blending out both the first and second layer of my concealer with this brush because I really like it. It's like really nice and dense, but it's still soft, so it keeps the concealer in place, but it still blends it out, if that makes sense. I'm going to take a little bit more of my Estee Lauder concealer, and I'm just picking up a little bit of it on a very small like liner brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of it like right here. This is another small change that I've made because I have like a very annoying shadow right here on my eyelids, and I feel like it's super visible when I do my eyeshadow, particularly on this eye, but I have like this little shadow on both of my eyes. So I like to put a little bit of concealer right here just to kind of camouflage this area a little bit, because I am going to be putting primer right here, but I don't drag the primer up this far. Okay, so that camouflaged that area just a little bit, and the concealer doesn't have to be like super blended out and smooth right here, because like I said, I am going to go on top of that with some primer in a little bit. So next I'm going to set my concealer. Today I'm going to be using the Coty Airspun Loose Face Powder. I've been wanting to try this for forever and a day, but I just got this maybe 2 weeks ago from Walmart. This one is in the shade Honey Beige, and let me see if I can show y'all the color of it. I hope y'all can see that. I really love powders that run like beigey or more like a pink tone powder as opposed to like yellow toned powders, because I do have a cool pink undertone. So I'm going to take this powder on a damp sponge. So I'm just dipping it in here, but then like tapping off the excess. And I'm going to start off with my under eye area. And I do really like this powder. I've been using it a lot since the first time that I've used it. The only drawback for me is it is slightly perfumey. I feel like the scent kind of goes away after you apply it, but it's slightly perfumey, and I would prefer stuff to just not smell like anything. So another change that I've been making, I would normally set my under eye with a lighter powder and then set the rest of my face with something else. But I've been taking the same powder that I use for my under eye, and I've been setting anywhere where I put concealer with this lighter powder, and that just further helps to like brighten certain areas on my face. Oh, I'm just realizing I never blended out this concealer on the side of my mouth. I forgot all about it. Okay, so I'm gonna take this powder and I'm just gonna blend it out like all around my mouth, kind of like around the sides of my nose as well. And I'm gonna hit my forehead and drag it down to like the top part of the center of my nose a little bit. And then for the rest of my face, I'm going to be using the Sephora Microsmooth. This is a baked powder foundation, but I've been using it as a setting powder, and this one is in the shade Tan. So I'm going to take another, like a bigger sponge. This is a damp sponge too, and I am going to put some of this powder all on the bottom part of the sponge, and I am going to press this powder into my face on any area where I didn't put that lighter powder. I'm not putting a whole lot on my forehead because, like I said, that part of my face does tend to crease. I used to set the rest of my face with this powder, but I would use like this big fluffy brush here. But lately I've been using a sponge to like really push the powder into my face. And I think just pushing it into the face just like further helps it to set. Now sometimes, I don't do this every single day, but sometimes I will take a makeup spray and I'll spritz my face at this point. If I feel like maybe I put on too much powder and I feel like my face is just looking too powdery, I might go in with this just to kind of calm it down. But I think for today this looks okay, so I'm going to skip this step for today. But this is another change that I've made sometimes if I feel like I've put too much powder to set my face. Next, I'm going to do a really quick eye look. So I'm going to start with my MAC Paint Pot and Painterly to prime my lids. So I'm just going to brush this all over my lid. And I've made some subtle changes to the way that I apply my eyeshadow as well. So I make sure that I'm applying just a little bit more of the primer right in this area here, just because I do have issues with getting some eyeshadows to stick right there. But for the most part, I'm just blending that out on my lid. For eyeshadow today, I'm using the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. And this is what it looks like here. This is like my everyday, well, it's not really my everyday palette anymore, but this is like my favorite palette ever. I just haven't picked it up in a very long time. Okay, so I'm going to be starting off with this shade here. This is called Bordeaux. It's like a chocolatey red type of shade. And the first change that I've made with applying the eyeshadow is I'm going to be putting my matte shade on the outer part of my lid first, whereas I used to put my shimmery shade all over the lid first. I'm going to start with this shade first, and I've been bringing this shade inward just a little bit. So I used to apply this like right on the outer corner. Now I'm going to apply it like right here, which is kind of like maybe a quarter of the way in. So I'm bringing it in a lot more than I used to. So I have a lot more extra space on the outer part of the lid with this new technique. I have like difficult eyes to work with, so I'm often changing like how I do my eyeshadow because I'm like learning as I go along. So okay, next I'm going in with this shade here. This is called Almond Truffle. It's like a very kind of like subtle like nude shade, and that's going to be the shade that I put all over my lid. And I'm just going to pack this on. This used to be how I would do my eyeshadow for like every day, but I haven't worn this palette in like a very long time. So this is a matte shade, but like even if I were doing like a shimmery shade, I used to do the shimmery shade or whatever shade I'm putting on this section of the eye. That's what I used to do first, and then I would do like a darker shade over here. I've just switched them out. I'm going to take a small blending brush. I don't have any eyeshadow on here, and I'm just going to blend right where these eyeshadows stop on the top, and I'm just like deepening out this area just a little bit. If I were going for more of like a smoky or maybe like a nighttime look, I might add extra eyeshadow right here. But for just like every day, you know, I don't want my eyes to look too dark and too smoky. So I'm not adding extra eyeshadow for today. And next I'm going in with this shade here. This is called Mocha. I'm going to use that to smoke everything out. So I'm just going to start by patting it on the outer part of the lid here. And I like to kind of, in some cases, I like to place my eyeshadow first and then blend everything out. I forgot to do my lower lash line, so I'm going to do that in a second. This dark matte shade here, I'm taking that same shade and putting it on my lower lash line, just on the outer part of it. This is nothing new. This is what I always do. I like to keep eyeshadow on my lower lash line, like just on the outer corner instead of dragging it all the way in. But I do take some of that same shade and I'll drag it like right here and like push it down just a little bit, just to kind of like fill in that empty space that I think I always have because of the skin that folds on my lid. It always looks like it skips right there, so I've been dragging it down just a little bit to fill it in. All right, now I'm going back in with this shade here so I can finish blending everything out. I'm sorry, buffing everything out. So I'm going to take some of that underneath that dark like reddish brown shade to further buff that out, and then also blend on the top of the eyeshadow and then drag that in to my inner corner. And I am going to go back and blend out that dark shade too. I just haven't gotten there yet. I'm going back in with my small blending brush and I'm picking up this dark matte shade here. And then I'm just going to blend like right on top of it, just to make sure that it's nice and blended on both sides. I'm going to go back in with this shade one more time. And I'm just going to do like one final blend around the whole look. And I feel like I didn't explain this earlier, but the reason I made these changes on my eyeshadow, I feel like my eye, I don't have a whole lot of eye space to work with, but placing that matte shade on the outer part of the lid first, it just helps me to know where to stop whatever main shade I'm going to put on the lid. And because I bring this color inward just a little bit, it gives me more room to like buff everything out without having like too much eyeshadow on my lid. So that's why I've made those changes. And lastly, I'm going in with this shimmery shade here, and that's going to be my inner corner highlight for today. Alright, so this is the eye look so far. We're going to finish up a little bit later with eyeliner and mascara, but for now we're going to move on to the cheek makeup. So I used to do bronzer first, then blush. Now I do blush, then bronzer. So for my blush, I'm going to be using Note Cosmetics in the shade Desert Rose. So that's what this one looks like. And I have changed where I apply the blush. So I used to put this like right on the apples of my cheek. Now I'm going to be putting it kind of like right behind the apples of my cheek. So I like to just smile a little bit and then I'll put it like right behind the apples. I just like to smile just so I can see like exactly where the apples are. So I'll just go like this and then I'm placing it right here, whereas before I would put the blush like a little bit further down. So I'm going to put the blush right here and I just like to concentrate it like right in this space. I used to kind of like spread the blush out just a little bit, but now I'm just keeping it like concentrated right behind the apples of my cheeks. And then I'm going to go in with my Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. This one is in the shade, I think this is called 3 Tan, but it's been wiped off on the back, but I'm pretty sure this is shade number 3. I don't really have like too much of a change to this. The only difference is I'm just making sure that I am stopping my bronzer right where my blush is starting. But I feel like other than that, I'm pretty much doing the same thing that I would always do. And then I'm just switching to a smaller brush just so I can get my nose. And this is another change, but I have been doing it for a while now. I used to bring the bronzer all the way down on my nose. Now I kind of like stop right here. I just feel like it looks more natural that way. And then I like to take whatever I use to apply my foundation and just lightly pounce over that just to like soften it back out. So I feel like with applying my blush further back, it doesn't look very harsh right here. Like a lot of times when I put my makeup on, I don't really notice it in the moment, but when I go back to edit it, I always feel like it looks really harsh right here because I have brightness from the concealer and then brightness like around my mouth, and then it's a lot darker right here because of the blush. So I feel like pushing the blush back, it just further balances out the center of my face. So that's why I've made that change. So now I'm going to go in and set everything, and for today I'm going to be using the Rimmel Stay Matte. This is the 2-in-1 primer and setting spray. I'm going to be using the Rare Beauty eyeliner and the Maybelline Total Temptation mascara. This is in brown. This is called Deep Cocoa. I'm going to do these off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, I have my mascara and eyeliner on, so I'm going to finish everything up with my lips. No real change to what I'm doing with my lips. I'm just finishing the look off. So I'm going to go in with my NYX lip liner, and this is in brown. And I'm finishing up with the Essence Shine 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 lip gloss in the shade Bright On. So that is what this looks like here. And in case you don't know, in case this is your first time here, I like cool tone makeup. That's what I gravitate to. So this particular lip gloss is like really silvery in color, but it's really, really shiny. These are really good lip glosses. I only have two of them. I have this one and just like a clear one, but they're really good, and they're only like $3 and some change, I believe. Okay, this is my finished look using my updated makeup routine. I really hope that y'all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and I hope to see y'all back here for my next video. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.